You're leaving your house and walking down a noisy, sunny city street. Life is buzzing everywhere. Children are playing and laughing in the park. Music can be heard from passing cars, and people are rushing about their daily routines. But suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a sickly-looking man appears in the middle of the street and behaves strangely. He looks around with frantic eyes, then suddenly falls to the ground and begins to convulse. Passers-by rush to his aid as they have no idea what's about to happen. The strange man bites one passerby, then another, then a third. All of them fall dead on the pavement for a few seconds, but then suddenly they come to life. The wave of bites spreads faster and faster. In just a few minutes, an army of zombies forms in the heart of a bustling metropolis. The city plunges into a panic. This is how most of us imagine the beginning of the notorious zombie apocalypse. Since the zombie legends originated in 17th and 18th century Haitian voodoo rituals, people have come up with numerous stories about the risen dead, and almost all of them started out roughly this way. Eventually, by the 21st century, a fairly stable image of zombies, hideous creatures preying on the brains and flesh of living people, had formed. We all have an approximate idea of the course of events of the national zombie apocalypse. Books, films, and games about The Walking Dead have perfectly described it more than 100 times. And we're all, of course, pretty sure these stories are just fiction. Almost certain. But what if it does happen? After all, similar cases have been recorded among insects, where a parasitic fungus turned ants into their own zombies. What if it's also possible among humans? And then what do we do? Escape, guided by movie plots. Run to the nearest shopping mall and hide behind glass doors? Or devise your own plan? In this video, we gathered the recommendations of researchers and tried to compose the most effective strategy for escaping from the zombie army. Yes, you heard right. Studies on the subject do exist. Of course, many of them are experimental or joking in nature, but even though the approach is not serious, their results could be well used in the case of a real zombie apocalypse. For example, in 2017, students at the University of Leicester conducted a study that predicted how long humanity would be able to resist the living dead. The initial results were disappointing. According to the preliminary prediction, most people on the planet will be dead or turned into zombies in 3 months, and only about 300 people will be left alive. Sometime later, the students refined the study and were able to get more data. This time, they took into account humanity's ability to adapt and fight zombies, and found that it would take about 1,000 days or 2 years and 9 months to kill all the non-humans. But it would take 25 years to rebuild civilization and population. And that's a best-case scenario. The first and foremost conclusion that the study draws is that we must not hesitate when zombies appear. We must save ourselves immediately, preferably on the first day or even the first hour. After all, if you consider that in 2017, the world population was 7,509,000,000 people, according to calculations of the students of the University of Leicester, zombies will be able to destroy 625 million people in a week. And that's about 90 million a day, or almost 4 million an hour. It's going to be easy to hit that number, especially if it takes a long time to collect. Avoid the prospect of becoming a zombie by reading the recommendations of the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention beforehand. Helping the public prepare for an attack by the living dead, the center also reminds them that similar measures are also relevant for other emergencies. In the event of a zombie apocalypse, experts recommend keeping a stockpile of basic necessities at home. The list includes an ample supply of water, storable food, medication your family needs, and anything else you might need for first aid. In addition, you should put in your zombie backpack stationery and some tools like tape, duct tape, a flashlight, and a knife, as well as personal hygiene items. You would agree that it would be safer and more pleasant to wait out the end of the world with clean teeth and hands. Don't forget copies of all important documents. Of course, zombies won't be interested in these papers, but survivors will be convinced that you are for order and peace in the world. To avoid losing family or friends in the ensuing chaos, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends identifying in advance where you should meet in case of sudden danger. And as soon as everyone you're prepared to wait for arrives at the designated location, head out of town immediately. After all, the studies agree that in the event of a zombie apocalypse, megacities will be the most dangerous place. The population density of modern cities will contribute to such a high rate of spread of the new virus that it will be impossible to stop the process at first. And that's fine if it's transmitted by bite. But imagine what will happen if the zombie virus spreads through the air. In general, the first thing to do is leave the densely populated areas of the metropolis and then the city itself. The logic here is simple. Fewer people to be bitten or infected by zombies means fewer zombies. But what to do next? Stay in the countryside? At first glance, this option seems ideal. And besides, that's what most zombie movies advocate. A detached house, a field to help you feed yourself, a river nearby, just a post-apocalyptic paradise. But here's the problem. Zombies can walk. Also, they don't get tired. So as soon as the city runs out of those to bite, armies of the living dead will head outside the city limits. And it's foolish to assume it's your house they'll avoid. But then, what to do? Back in 2015, researchers at Cornell University modeled the spread of a national disease that could lead to a zombie apocalypse. They predicted towns would be deserted in a matter of days, the countryside would be at risk after a few weeks, but it could take several months for zombies to reach the highlands. In that time, the survivors will have at least time to prepare for the attack. The conclusion from this research suggests itself. As soon as you leave the city, plot a route to the nearest mountains. Speaking of which, don't hesitate in that matter either. In a couple of days at best, the servers will shut down, and the internet will become unavailable. The situation is slightly better with the GPS system. It's likely to remain operational for about 6 months. So at the very least, have time to download the map you need and hit the road. But of course, if the zombie apocalypse doesn't find you at the foot of some mountain, you'll need a car, and preferably not a simple one. Chances are, in such a situation, you'll be happy with any means of transportation that will help you get out of the city faster. In the event that you do have a choice, you may want to consider armored cars. According to movies, games, and just the opinion of connoisseurs and fans of those zombies, it is the kind of powerful vehicle that will keep you alive and get you to your destination. However, not everyone shares this view. Weaknesses of armored vehicles in the zombie apocalypse will be high fuel consumption and poor cross-country ability. So the second line in the ranking of the most popular cars in the case of such end of the world are four-wheel drive SUVs. In this connection, among other variants of the best transport during the zombie apocalypse in different reviews, also mention electric cars, which are valuable for their quietness and possibility of recharging from solar batteries, and even bicycles, which do not demand any fuel at all. But you'll be in luck if you come across a limited edition Hyundai Santa Fe the company launched in 2013 as part of its Zombie Survival Machine series. Knives are sticking out of the car body, machine guns and crossbows mounted on the bonnet, and a machine gun on the roof. You can stick your head out of a special hatch to shoot out of it. The only problem is that the car was made in one copy, and not everyone is lucky enough to see it in the street during the zombie apocalypse. But in any case, at some point, you will have to leave the car, no matter how cool it is, because getting to where the zombies can't get to quickly will probably only be possible on foot. However, once you've taken refuge in the mountains and set up your dwelling there, you'll have to choose how to proceed. Maybe you decide to sit in relative safety and wait for it all to be over. Not a bad option overall. There's only one downside to it. There's a chance it may never be over at all. So you might want to speed up the rebirth of human civilization and try to find a cure and heal the bitten, or at least figure out what exactly is turning people into the living dead. If you know you're going to do just that, you should start familiarizing yourself with scientists' speculations on the origins of zombies right away. For example, back in 2013, Harvard Medical School professor Dr. Stephen C. Schlossman initiated a course aimed at explaining the real concepts behind zombie movies. And 2 years before that, in 2011, the professor published a book titled The Zombie Autopsies: Secret Notebooks from the Apocalypse. Schlossman has focused both of his initiatives on looking for real brain abnormalities that could lead to symptoms characteristic of the zombie image. For example, the doctor attributes problems with gait and balance to a probable cerebral lesion. Pale skin and impulsive behavior, he suggests, could be the result of frontal lobe trauma, and unmotivated anger could be the result of lesions in the amygdala. Schlossman pays particular attention to the unquenchable hunger commonly attributed to all zombies. In his opinion, this syndrome is the hardest to explain, but it could probably be related to death or damage to the ventromedial hypothalamus, the part of the brain responsible for satiety. In general, if you could get a hold of a print version of this book by Schlossman and others like it, take it with you up into the mountains. Humanity will still have a chance to be reborn. Do you believe that a zombie apocalypse can happen in reality? How will you escape? Share your options in the comments.